Imagine you wake up tomorrow and every shop is gone. No bread, no rice, no farms, no fields of wheat anywhere on Earth because nobody has invented the idea of planting a seed on purpose. You have your body, your hands, and whatever you can find before dark. This wasn't a disaster. This was normal. For almost the entire history of our species, more than 95% of it, this is exactly how every human being on the planet lived. So what did they actually eat? The answer is stranger and a lot more impressive than berries and raw meat, because these people fed themselves for 200,000 years without a single farm, and to do it, they had to become the most adaptable eaters the planet had ever seen. The real story begins now. First, let's kill the cartoon in your head. When people picture a caveman's diet, they picture a man tearing into a giant hunk of raw mammoth meat all the time. That's wrong, and it's wrong in an important way. Meat was valuable, meat was prized, but meat was not reliable. A hunt could fail for days. Big animals are dangerous, fast, and not standing around waiting to be caught. If ancient humans had depended on meat alone, they would have starved between kills, so they didn't. The truth is that most of the calories keeping most ancient humans alive most of the time came from something far less exciting: plants. Roots, tubers, seeds, nuts, fruit, bulbs, leaves, the boring, findable, diggable stuff that doesn't run away. Meat was the jackpot. Plants were the paycheck. We call them hunter-gatherers, but honestly, the order should probably be flipped. Gathering was the steady engine, and it was skilled work, far more than it sounds. A gatherer had to hold an enormous mental map: which plants were safe, which were poison, which looked identical to the poison ones, where each grew, and exactly what time of year each became edible. Think about that. No labels, no one to ask. Get it wrong once with the wrong root, and you die. Every edible plant they knew represented generations of people testing, remembering, and passing down what killed and what fed. They knew which tubers had to be cooked to remove toxins. They knew which nuts had to be soaked. They knew that a certain plant was worthless most of the year, but packed with energy for 2 weeks in spring. This was a library of survival, stored entirely in human memory, and it was as sophisticated as any technology they owned. Here's the thing people miss. There was no single ancient human diet. What you ate depended entirely on where on Earth you happened to be born. On the coast, humans ate the sea: shellfish, fish, seals, seaweed. Some of the oldest evidence of ancient human settlement sits next to giant piles of discarded shells, mounds so big they're still visible today. The coast was one of the best addresses in the ancient world because the sea refills itself every single day. In the grasslands and savannas, it was roots, seeds, wild grains, and whatever animals could be hunted or scavenged across the open plains. In the deep forests, it was fruit, nuts, honey, insects, birds, and small game. And in the frozen north, the Ice Age tundra, plants barely grew at all, so those humans became the exception to everything I just said. They did eat mostly meat, because meat was almost all there was: reindeer, mammoth, fish. They survived on fat and flesh because the land gave them no other choice. Same species, wildly different plates. That flexibility is the whole story of how we spread across the entire planet. Now, here's a part nobody wants to hear. They ate insects, a lot of insects. We flinch at this, but that's a modern, mostly Western reaction. For most humans across most of history, insects were a normal, valuable food, and for good reason. They're packed with protein and fat. They don't fight back, they don't run very fast, and they're everywhere. Grubs, beetles, larvae, termites, grasshoppers, caterpillars. When you can't guarantee a big kill, a handful of fat larvae is a genuinely excellent meal: efficient, safe, reliable. Honey was the ultimate prize: pure, dense energy in a world with almost no sweetness. Ancient humans risked serious stings climbing to raid hives, and cave paintings of people gathering honey are among the oldest images we have. That's how much it mattered. So the real ancient diet included things that would make a modern person gag, and those things were often the smartest, safest calories available. Everything I've described gets 100 times more powerful once you add one thing: fire.
Raw food is hard to chew, hard to digest, and your body spends huge energy just breaking it down. Many plants that are toxic or useless raw become safe, soft, and nutritious the moment you cook them. Cooking is like pre-digesting your food outside your body. It unlocks calories that raw food simply won't give up. Cooked meat, cooked roots, cooked tubers. Suddenly the same food delivers far more usable energy for far less effort. Some scientists argue this is one of the most important things that ever happened to us. That access to all this extra easy energy is part of what let our brains grow so large, because a big brain is incredibly expensive to run, and you can't afford one on raw leaves alone. So in a real sense, cooking didn't just change what ancient humans ate, it may have helped shape who they became. At this point, you might be wondering, this was tens of thousands of years ago. Nobody wrote it down. How could we possibly know what they ate? And this is my favorite part, because the evidence is genuinely clever. Their teeth. Ancient teeth carry microscopic scratches and pits from a lifetime of chewing. Gritty roots leave one pattern, tough meat leaves another. We can read a diet off the wear on a tooth. Even the hardened plaque traps tiny fragments of the actual plats they ate, preserved for tens of thousands of years. They're trash, those shell mounds, piles of cracked animal bones with cut marks and smash marks showing they were butchered for meat and marrow, charred seeds around old fireplaces, and yes, their waste. Fossilized human excrement called coprolite sometimes survives, and inside researchers find undigested seeds, fibers, and fragments that tell us with slightly disgusting precision exactly what someone ate for their last few meals thousands of years ago. We're not guessing, we're reading a detailed record these people left behind without ever meaning to. So farming arrives. Around 12,000 years ago, humans start planting seeds on purpose. This is supposed to be the great leap forward, the beginning of civilization. But here's the uncomfortable part. For ordinary humans eating the food, farming may have made life worse at first. Hunter-gatherers ate an incredibly varied diet, hundreds of different foods across the year. That variety meant a broad range of nutrients and a strong buffer. If one food failed, 20 others were still on the menu. Early farmers did the opposite. They bet everything on a few crops: wheat, rice, corn. And when your whole diet is one or two plants, two things happen. Your nutrition narrows. Early farmer skeletons are often shorter and show more signs of deficiency and disease than the foragers before them. And if that one crop fails, everyone starves at once. Famine, as a mass event, is largely an invention of farming. The foragers, eating their bugs and roots and shellfish and occasional meat, were in many ways better fed than the farmers who advanced past them. Farming won in the end, not because it made individuals healthier, but because it made more humans possible on the same land, even if each one had a harder life. Quantity beat quality. That's the trade our ancestors made, and we're still living inside it. So what did ancient humans eat before farming? Almost everything. Roots and shellfish and honey and grubs and seeds and whatever they could hunt, adjusted perfectly to wherever they stood on Earth, transformed by fire, remembered through an unwritten library of survival, passed down across 1,000 generations. Not primitive, not simple, the most flexible, resourceful eating our species has ever done, and arguably healthier than what came right after it. The next time you open a fridge stocked with food from every corner of the planet, remember your body was built by 200,000 years of people who had none of that and fed themselves anyway. If you want to know how those same people survived the brutal cold of the Ice Age with no houses and no shelter, that's the next video. I'm Doodle Dave. See you there.